Meeting ID. Do you have a meeting ID?
It's the link.
Go through Canvas.
I'm having to download it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have my computer last week.
Yeah, it takes like 1 second to download.
And then
Can online people hear me? Okay, good. Where's our chat? Chat. Okay.
no, you have to click. I haven't turned mine on yet. You have to click. Start video.
Did you use a Canvas click?
What?
I saw someone playing on the
Yeah, also by the innovation.
Shelly is here. Yep. Shelly. Brooks here. Who else is here? Janelle is here. Tracy. Sandy. What up, Sandy? Tara.
Hey, what up?
Are you guys all dry yet?
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
That's about as dry as you're gonna get.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys might get a little rain next weekend.
We might get a little bit of something. Okay, can somebody online talk, because I hooked us up to the big speakers.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yep, that's good. Great.
Oh, I'm looking at the side of my face.
Yeah, I hate that. That's what I.
Yeah, guys, nobody can see that view as long as you're looking at your computer. Nobody sees that awkward side view. So just look at your computer or you look at. But if you stare up there, then everyone's going to see you looking like that the whole time, and it's weird.
What's the point of having it?
Because I'm going to pull up some stuff here that, and also I have to be connected to the big screen in order to use the big microphone. And the big microphone works better for just kind of everything. So I know it's awkward. Just don't pay attention to it.
Does that one pick up all of us? That's what's picking us up, not your computer?
Mm-mm.
Oh, so can you hear me?
Yeah. But please do speak louder. I'm going to try to clear all this phlegm out of my throat. I know that was lovely to know, but I'd rather do that now before we're like middle of class. I'm the perpetual, you know, those people irritate you, right? Just cough it out. I have to tell my daughter all the time. She's 4. She likes to do the, I'm like, Brooke, cough it out. Not you. Anyways.
You can find it.
Okay. Cough it all out. Big coughs. All right, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to class tonight. We've got lots of things to talk about today, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading all of your comments about your strengths and needs for areas for improvement. You guys are hard on yourself, but I guess we all are, right? We're all our own worst critic, or however we want to, hardest critic, whatever. So before we jump into our first little activity element for this class, what did you think about having to list your strengths and areas for improvement? Be honest. Was this hard for you to think critically about yourself?
It's easier to list the weaknesses than the strengths.
Okay.
At least for myself.
Also, side note before we get too far, I just found out today that when you're watching the recording, so for people who can't stream live into class, we have one person who can't, they can never see the chat. And so I'm going to try to always pull in chat comments. So this goes for anybody in person or online, if you see comments that are being made in the chat and you feel like they need to be part of the actual conversation, please just grab it and pull it in and say, somebody in the chat said this. Because when you guys really get going in the commentary, that I miss stuff. And I would hate for somebody online to miss that just because they can't see the chat. And I don't know what that is about. I can't change that. But yeah, okay, so back to our thoughts. It's easier to come up with things that your areas for improvement.
Maybe it's just me.
Maybe that's okay. Any other thoughts?
For me, it was kind of almost upsetting to see how my qualities won't work as a consultant.
What? No. That can't be true. Tell me why you think that.
I don't have good confrontation skills. So like if something doesn't go well, I'm like, okay. And
Okay.
sometimes like I have a lack of confidence in certain aspects. So if I don't feel like I'm confident in that, like I'm not gonna feel as if I'm an expert, and the people on the other side won't trust me.
Okay. That's a valid point. I don't think that you have to be like confrontational, like, "Rah!" to be a consultant. You do have to be able to stand your ground and be firm, especially if there are major issues and you're providing advice and they've asked you to come in and provide advice. You do have to be able to be firm about it, but that's not necessarily confrontational.
Sure.
I was going to add something to that. I would say that if you come across, so we're going to talk about this today in terms of setting up that initial meeting with somebody to get that consultant job or whatever, that if you come across as not knowledgeable in your area or passive, I'm trying to think of some of the words that maybe you guys used about yourself, so I'm not calling anybody out, but somebody put in there that they were passive, so maybe not knowledgeable in an area. If all of that comes across in that, it's just like a job interview, right? If that comes across in that initial meeting, they're probably not going to hire you to be the consultant over that job. So in that sense, it'll work itself out. Not in your favor, but maybe in your favor since you wouldn't end up having to do the job. But ultimately, bottom line in your wallet, not going to work out, right? That's not in your favor. So, but I would say that we all have areas that don't align well with being a consultant. There's nobody who's perfect in anything that they do, so don't feel like you have to be perfect in order to be a consultant. What did we talk about last week in terms of some of the skills required to be a consultant? Pop quiz.
Derek said confidence, but
Having relationships with people,
Say that again.
being able to have appropriate relationships with people,
Yeah.
interacting.
Elements. Yeah. I can't even remember, guys. This is bad. Hold on. I'm trying to open up the PowerPoint from last week just to remind myself. I mean, there are skills and then there are other elements. Okay, so technical expertise, interpersonal relationship skills, and then the skills of consulting. So being able to enter into a contract, being able to collect the data about it, being able to provide feedback and make a decision. So this might come across as having to be confrontational about providing feedback, but it's not necessarily confrontational. Being able to implement the plan or whatever, and then being able to continue on with that job. So those are the skills, but there's more to it about being a consultant, right? Those are the things that you can learn and pick up those skills. But then there's this other element, the more of the soft skills type of things that are just inherently in us. So these are our characteristics, right? Our personal characteristics, our strengths, our weaknesses, because we all bring our weaknesses with us everywhere we go. And so it's important to understand and know what those are so that you can improve them. And then from there, move wherever you need to move or improve whatever you need to improve, and then strengthen whatever you've already got going on, right? So what I want us to do, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever done this before, but I'm going to put a link in the chat for those of you who are online. Well, I'll just put it in the chat for everybody. Where'd it go? Have you guys ever heard of character strengths? Anybody ever heard of positive psychology? Yeah. So, come back. There it is. Maybe it's there. I'm pretty sure I put it in. Did you guys see a link come up? Huh, where'd that go?
Turn around to the chat.
Yeah, I just put it right there. Enter. There it is. Okay. Although the people online who are watching
Post it
this,
on the discussion board.
good call.
It comes up. Hey, I have Alabama Department of Public Health in my facility. So if I have to leave, it's because the surveyor needs me for something.
Okay,
So I'm trying not to leave. So
no problem.
okay.
Okay, so nobody's watching recorded right now. It's going to be later, so I won't put it up. Just remind me, discussion. But it'll be in the PowerPoint. So anyways, everybody go to this link here. We're going to take a quiz. It takes about 15 minutes to do it. But this is going to give you your top 24 character strengths in order.
Strengths finders or strength finders, or is this a different one?
This is a different one.
Different one? Okay.
This one aligns with positive psychology, with the theoretical framework, positive psychology. So if you've ever heard of Martin Seligman, or the other really awesome name, Mihai, we know that name, right? What theory? Flow. That's right. It all kind of comes together. But Martin Seligman is really the one who was the research kind of scholar behind the positive psychology movement. And so this takes a strengths-based approach to psychology, as opposed to saying, here's all the things that are wrong with you. It's saying, here's all the things that are right with you. And it tells you what those character strengths are. They have 24. This will rank you what your 24 are, and it'll tell you. This is free. You can sign up, start your little thing. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to spend 15 minutes doing it, and everybody's going to take it and find out what your strengths are. Dun, dun, dun.
I think we did this in Dr. Lewis's class.
Oh, you did?
I was trying to find mine for like this whole
Yeah.
assignment. I couldn't find it. So
Yeah, if you can't find it, take it again. I've taken it, but it's probably been 12 years, so I'll be curious to take it again and see if I have the same strengths or if it has changed over the course of my life. Ah, stupid duo.
I was able to like sign in on my account.
oh really?
This is great that you guys took that in this class.
I had my students from preceptorship take it as well.
Really helpful for interviews.
It is. So this is where I want to say that this could be helpful for you. And if you weren't sure what your strengths were, or if you were just pulling things off the random tree so that you could have something in a discussion before class today. But there's a lot of science behind these 24 character strengths. And I think that it's just good knowledge.
Even when candy or cookies are under my nose, I never overeat.
Unlike me.
So,
That's supposed to be like a metaphor. That like
If it's literal.
Oh yeah, I still have my results.
okay, if you have your results, don't take it again then. You just hang out for 15 minutes.
I thought my bottom three were very comical.
I think it will give you a lot of insight into yourself. I think there are some things where it's like, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
I want to know.
Didn't see any of those three coming, did you?
That doesn't mean that those are weaknesses.
Yeah. But I pretty much saw those.
But they're
coming
not
from,
your
like,
top.
A mile away.
Yeah, they're not your top. What was that?
It's telling me to click boxes for their street signs.
Oh, the robot thing?
It's taking forever. I've done like 4.
I know, sometimes I fail those. It's embarrassing. I'm not.
It's mainly because
For anybody who's watching this recorded another time, like tomorrow or something, you could probably just fast forward over the next 10 minutes or so of class, since we're all taking this survey and it's like 15 minutes long. These are weird. Some of these are weird questions.
They seem like not like the rest.
Oh shoot. You guys saw how I answered everything. Did you guys see my answers?
Have you taken it before?
Yeah, but like 10 years ago. So. Weird ethnicity, oceanic. Did you guys
You
get?
can fill all that out. You don't have to fill that out if you don't want to.
Oh, okay. That's weird though. Oceanic. How is that different from Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander? You like
Less specific.
Kevin Costner in Waterworld and you live on the ocean? How did you hear about the survey? Strong Cincinnati. That must be an organization or something, because this is from headquartered in Ohio, but that's weird. Okay, how about we just say it was referred by a professor? Well, look at that, guys. Why'd you take the survey? The survey was assigned by a consultant or a manager. Dun, dun, dun. All right, look at that. Okay, don't look, don't look. Oh, shoot, I have to stay plugged in so we have the volume. I'll shrink it down. There. Okay, everybody, how's your progress? Good. Who needs more time? No? Okay. Has everybody had a chance to look through your results? Is there anything that's like jumping out at you like, what? I wouldn't have guessed that. Or anything that you're a little bit concerned about that you might want to, I'll put on my therapist hat. We'll have a little mini therapy session right now. Not really, but anything? Anybody want to share?
I'm not very impressed with myself.
Wait, who's this?
This
You're
top-
not very impressed with yourself?
Not very impressed. My first one was love, and I feel like that's really lame.
That's not like.
Well, wait, don't they give you like a little explanation of what each one is? If you click on it.
Yes,
is
it's valuing close relations with others, in particular those in which sharing and caring are reciprocated, being close to people.
How is that bad?
I don't think it's bad. I don't know. I'm a mom. Like, that's just a given, I guess.
Well, maybe that's a big part of your life right now. So it's very like salient in your brain right now, everything that's involved in caring for people. I will say that my strength is different. My first strength, my greatest strength is not the same as it was 12 years ago. My greatest strength 12 years ago was judgment, and that's now 5th, apparently. My judgment has gotten
In fairness,
poorer as I've aged. I used to be really proud of that I had good judgment, that was my top character strength. Anybody else? Let's talk about it, guys. Let's share. Let's have a discussion here. Anything else that I thought Derek's were funny when your bottom three? You want to share what your bottom three are?
Yeah. Pretty straightforward. Love of learning, humor, and appreciation for beauty is my last one.
So I want to make sure to point out that these things are not necessarily, the ones on the bottom, weaknesses. These are things that just are not as strongly inherent in your nature, your character. They're still there. And I think that's the point that the authors of the character strengths and positive psychology are saying, is that these are not weaknesses. All of these are your strengths. Even the ones on the bottom are your strengths. So there's nowhere in here that you like need room for improvement. I mean, I think it would be weird to be like, okay, I'm going to try to, well, maybe it wouldn't be weird to try to improve your love of learning. Maybe that would be a good thing. Strengthen one of your strengths a little bit more. Anybody else want to share any?
I guess I'll share my lowest one, my lowest strength, if I were wording it in a positive way. But I think it's funny, so I'll go ahead and say it's humility. But I think how I would look at it in a positive way is that I do at least something that I think I put it on my other thing, or I've talked about in interviews, but I can express myself and be self-aware. So maybe the reason why it comes out as I'm not humble is just that I verbalize who I am.
Don't read it as you're not humble. Don't read it that way, because there are probably like 50,000 weaknesses you have that are more of a weakness than having humility fall as your last strength. Okay. So it's still a strength. It just, they all can't be first, right?
Yeah.
So, and one thing that there isn't information on this, and I would maybe have to read about it, a billion articles to find it, is how much difference between these character strengths does it need to rank them in order? I mean, really, if you're ranking them like this, is there this much space between each one, or are they really like ranked this close to each other? So it's really hard to tell what's your first and what's your second, because you endorse those ideas so closely. And so maybe really like for a lot of us, the 1 through 24 is really on the same level like this, because we endorse them all really the same. But for the purposes of this survey, it has to rank them in an order. So don't look at it as it's a weakness or you're a total, you know, what does Donald Trump say? Braggadocious or whatever he says, his made up words. Okay. So sorry. That's actually a real word, but he used it weird. Total tangent. So anybody else?
Ooh, I noticed if you look at the bottom, the color coding, I have a lot of transcendence and I have very little temperance.
Okay. So I'd have to go back to read about, so there's the 24 strengths and they do group differently. And I'd have to go back and read about those core virtues, and how everything, yeah. So these are categories, virtue categories that are universal across cultures and nations. To learn more about this, you have to buy something, but is that a concern to you, or?
I mean, I thought I had more temperance, I guess. So that's some information. Yeah.
So what I recall reading years ago when I first did this is that your character strengths are pretty stable. So they're not going to change from like situation to situation based on how much stress or things are going on in your life. Now they might change, like, again, I did mine 12 years ago, so I am a very different person now than I was 12 years ago. So that makes sense to me that maybe some of my virtues, my character strengths have changed. But if you were to take it again next week or next month, it's likely going to be the same. Did you have a hand there?
Yeah, I have two things.
Oh yeah, sure.
One,
Well, I retook it again from like last semester, and they were like you're saying they're pretty much all the same. Also about the conference, Taylor said it was canceled.
Oh, did you guys all? I don't know if you guys heard that. I think a decision was just made about ATRA. I'm gonna look at my email really quick. Oh, I got nothing.
Did you say it was canceled?
Do you have an email
No.
or a text?
Not yet.
Taylor texted me.
Yeah, Taylor's a ex officio whatever board member, so she might hear before other
I'll
people.
wait for, like,
Nothing's official yet, but it's looking like it was canceled. I know, bummer. So
I got a tiger head to wear.
keep your eyes peeled for emails. I'm sure we'll all be notified tonight. Okay, so anybody else want to share some thoughts about their, I'm just continuing to look through mine. Hey, don't feel bad. Humility was on the bottom for me too. So actually I have a friend whose humility was his first one. And he was like, that can't be right. And like the way that he responded to it, it was like so clearly that humility is his first strength.
That's so funny.
It was perfect. Just like when you say those bottom three are so clearly you. The way that he responded to humility being number one, I was like, don't try to fight it.
I was really shocked that I had leadership as my second one because I kind of stand in the back and let other people lead and just go with the flow. So I was kind of shocked to see that as my second one.
But there are lots and lots of different ways to be a leader.
Yeah.
You know, some people aren't like the overt out there in your face types of leaders, and other people stand in the back but are like the quiet leaders that you may not be the face of something, but people might turn to you a lot to ask your advice, things like that. And that's still being a leader. So interesting. Okay, so now that you know a little bit more about your character and your virtues, your personal virtues, how do you think, going back to the question from what you had to post for this week, how can we translate this into consulting, our work as a consultant and working with our clients, whether it be, well, from a consulting standpoint, the facility is your client, from a, you know, basic rec therapy standpoint, working with your patients, but.
I'll talk.
Thank you.
I love to talk too much. My number one characteristic was fairness. And I think as a consultant, that can be interpreted because I can look at across the board and not try to be objective and not and just walk into the situation and say, okay, let's be fair and look across the board. And instead of coming in with a preconceived notion, okay, there's going to be problems, or I don't like this person, so let me be more critical. I have the ability to go in, I guess, and look at everything from a standpoint of saying, okay, you know, let's look at everything on a fair board and figure out what we can do to fix it.
Yeah. Fairness was also my top one. And I think kind of a similar, I try to go in with no bias towards any one person or anything. You know, we come into class and I'm like, it's going to be a great class. We all have great ideas, you know, and I don't try to think, oh, I'm so excited that this person is in class, or, oh man, I'm not looking forward to this. You know, it's an even playing field, right? And I think when we're in consulting positions, we have to have that very objective, not let it be swayed by emotion or anything like that. And so I think that plays into the fairness aspect. What about, so take your top strength, guys, so that we could foster some discussion here. Think about how your top strength could help you be a better consultant.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
So mine's spirituality.
Okay.
For my very first one.
That totally
I can
fits
help
you.
I'm on the same one. I've got a thought process.
Okay. It is the same?
Yeah. So for my top four, we'll do four: spirituality, love, hope, and perspective. When I was looking at the like definition of temperance, I think that talking about it in a like as a consultant, it's a good quality to have in that you're going to come in, you have to look big picture, long term, and you know you're not going to be caught up in the small details, and you're going to be looking at their best interests long terms. And so like spiritually, there are times that you go through things that you have to look big picture wise, like it may be hard now, but you'll get to a better place later. And that kind of perspective can be carried over when you're consulting, coming in and trying to fix things and make things better for the future.
Yeah. And I think to add on to that, that spirituality is, for a lot of people who, you know, ascribe to a certain religion or whatever, it gives them a set of behaviors and beliefs to follow that like guide their conduct. And I think that people who are very, very spiritual don't deviate from that. And so like you're the steady course through, you know, tough trials for people when you have a code of conduct basically to follow. And I think all of that is wrapped up into spirituality. Now, it doesn't have to mean that you're like shoving that in anybody's face and this is how I behave and this how you must behave like this. Yeah. It's not like that. It keeps you on track. And it's always good to have the one steady person. So imagine as a consultant that you're going into a facility that's in total chaos and they just need help. And you're the one calm person and the one steady person because you have a certain set of personal beliefs that keep you on a steady course. So it doesn't necessarily mean that any of those beliefs have to coincide with what's going on in the facility. It's just, it guides your personal conduct. And that I think could help play into the consulting world by keeping you on course, just personally and then professionally. Anybody else have thoughts about spirituality? Anyone have that as their first or their top, 3, 4, 5? All right, anybody else want to share how your top one applies? Come on, guys, get into it.
I had creativity for my third one. Oh, you want top, like the first one?
First, second, third, somewhere in there.
I had humor and creativity. So I think that would probably help me to come up with different solutions to issues. And then maybe humor would help relate to other people.
That fits you. It's funny how some people's character strengths are like, yes, that totally is you. I see it, the spirituality with you. And like, yeah. So.
Yeah, spirituality was my last one.
And that's okay too. Okay, anybody else?
My first one was perseverance.
Hey, way to go.
Yay. Yeah, like especially this like the one line they have here, like persevering in a course of action in spite of obstacles. Like you might hit a lot of obstacles and you gotta keep going.
Yeah.
As a consultant. So
well, just think about that in life. Some people give up so easily when things get hard, right? So I'm, Brooke is 4.5, my daughter, and she always is like, oh, I can't do this. It's too hard. Or my legs hurt. We're teaching her to ride a bike. My legs are so tired, And so I keep trying to talk to her about we do hard things. We do hard things and we don't stop just because it's hard, and at 4.5 years old, I'm trying to drill that into her that we don't give up. Because I think over the course of a life, how many times are we hit with challenges? And I promise you that will happen for sure in a consulting job, that it will not work out nicely. We'll save those stories for another time. Okay, other things to share, anybody? Let's hear from someone online.
Humility.
Yeah, way to go.
I think I'm pretty good about coming into new environments and not creating territorial disputes. I'm pretty good about finding what's going on well and maybe ways to make it better rather than it's my way or the highway.
What was your second and third?
Love of learning and love.
I think it's really interesting. You can't really take any of these character strengths one at a time and only think of, they all relate with each other. So if you're looking at humility, love of learning, and love, and how those all kind of come together to be you, it's weird to look at them at just one by itself because they influence each other. All right, anybody else?
I think my top 3 are pretty true to who I am. It's honesty, humor, and kindness.
I would agree with that. No, you're wrong. I'm kidding. But just based on my experiences with you over the last couple of months, I would see that for sure. And how's that going to apply to your life as a consultant?
I think honesty and kindness go, for me in my life at least, go pretty hand in hand. Humor, I feel like, is never a bad thing to have. So once you're all professional and stuff, you can,
Mm-hmm.
Throw out some jokes or something.
Or put Skittles in your
Or
dimple.
put Skittles in my dimples.
Well, I think humor can be beneficial when you're trying to work through tough situations too, and coming in and meeting new people for the first time, and playing icebreakers and things like that. All of that helps build relationships and break down, like, I don't know, difficult times. I think sometimes you just need a laugh, even in tough things. And you're going to be asking people to do hard things. You're asking people to change, basically, in the role of a consultant, and that could be hard. And so having humor incorporated into it can be helpful to just like lighten the load, lighten the feeling, like, oh, we just need to breathe and laugh right now, And so if somebody can stick a dimple in there, a Skittle in their dimple. Stick a Skittle in your dimple, say that fast 5 times. That could be a funny thing. Like, everybody show me a stupid human trick right now. Watch. I don't even know how you do it. But yeah, I think it's a beneficial thing. All right. Anybody else want to share anything? We're going to move on if no one else wants to share about their awesomeness. All right. Okay, so I hope you kind of file that away as this is me, and now I'm stronger and better because I know this little bit of insight about myself. And you could be a better practitioner, a better manager, a better consultant. I'm going to share my screen. I just have a PowerPoint for today. I'm hoping that this doesn't freak out like it did last week. It's freaking out. That's really weird.
It was just before that.
Can I see what it looks like on yours, Brett? Oh, that looks way different than Derek's.
Mine says, viewing options. I can request remote control and all of that. Exit full screen, annotate, hide video panel.
All right. Not impressed, Zoom. I'm going to stop sharing. And instead of sharing that way, I'm just going to share like this. Now what do you see? Okay, we'll share that way. I don't know what I just did, but that's how we're going to share. Make sure I can see the chat over here.
Yeah.
So is the chat covering up some of the PowerPoint?
I can't see the chat.
Okay.
Just barely.
Okay, so here we are going to talk today about what we need. Oh, wow, that looks totally different than here. Okay. What we need to sell yourself as a consultant, okay? Well, what do you have to sell? Your strengths. We talked about this. Your technical skills and your expertise, okay? Where are you going to sell this? Are you going to be an internal consultant or an external consultant? Yes to all of the above. You may be asked to do something internally. You may look elsewhere for your jobs, whatever, if you want to go down this road. First of all, is anybody really interested in being a consultant? Yes? I see a few hands, the maybes. I don't know.
I would say maybe.
Maybe. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. You don't have to be. I mean, this class isn't like, you must do this. Not like some of the other elements of being a rec therapist, like you have to do assessments and things like that. I think this is an optional thing. So if you're interested, this is what we're talking about. How are you going to sell yourself as a consultant? All right, so am I not able to move my slides? There they go, okay. So knowing your strengths and what you have to offer, so we just spent a ton of time talking about this, so I'm not gonna hit this too much here. But you've gotta know what you have to offer, and when you go on those job interviews, those consulting interviews, sometimes you might have to incorporate that into, that's for sure like a key interview question, like what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Now you might not want to go in and say my top strength is spirituality in a job interview, because that unless you have a really great way of tying that to the job, that might not come across as a skill that they desire, right? So there may be some other way to explain kind of your strengths if they're not like the traditional strengths. But it's also good to know what those weaknesses are as well. I always have like a few key weaknesses, like I do not know how to delegate. So I find myself in situations where I've got a crap ton of work, even though there are people to help, because I just don't know how to delegate. So good to be able to talk about those as well as you're going into making these appointments with people for consulting. So they know from the get-go what you're bringing in there. Okay, so making contact. How are you going to find these companies? Some of it is like cold calling, right? You just kind of have to approach people. Well, definitely in this class, you're just going to have to approach people and say, hey, I'm doing this project for a class. Can I work with you? But in a real job situation, how are you going to go about finding places that you may want to work with? Thoughts?
Like maybe your own professional network, like who you know.
Sure.
It's a pretty small field, so
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that kind of helps.
Mm-hmm.
If people know your name, like if you do a consulting project for one facility, other people in the community might hear about it.
Definitely. I think a lot of what impacts this is your desire, how much you want consulting to be, what percentage of your kind of daily work life you want consulting to be. If this is all you want to do, you're going to have to really go out there and find these places. And so you can't rely only on word of mouth, because that's only one way. If you want this to only be a small portion of what you do, then maybe that's okay. But it just kind of depends on how you think. But for the purposes of this class, you definitely have to go out and actively search for that place. So I cannot remember from last week. You guys were supposed to come with some ideas in some places. Does everybody have a place already identified? Yes. What about on our online group? Jasmine does, Shelly does, for some reason, Tara does. I cannot move my little screen of pictures. Weird. All right, Zoom. I can't see anybody else online, so if you raised your hand, I apologize. I can't see it right now. Is there anybody typing? I can see the chat. So if you haven't already found a place, let's be working on this diligently. We can't let it go too much longer. I think your MOAs are due in 3 weeks, which means you have to have a place identified. So if you don't have one, email me like tomorrow. Okay, so once you find a facility, finding the person that's going to be your contact in that facility is probably the next. It is the next, and not just probably, it is the next important step, okay? So the person that you initially talk to might not be that person that is your go-to contact in the facility. And so you're going to have to ask, now, are you the person that I will work with closely on this project? No? Can you tell me who that would be and put me in contact with that person? Okay. And there might be multiple levels of meetings, 1 to get in the door, and then 2 with that next person. So be prepared to have multiple meetings. So yeah.
With consulting in general, is it more the consultant seeking out the facility? Around, from what my understanding is, it seems like a facility would say, okay, we need an outside perspective, and then they go.
Yes. The answer to that is yes, it's both. And I think it kind of depends. Now in rec therapy, I'm not 100% sure because there's not a ton of people that do this. I can only speak to my experience as a consultant. And it has not been, there's only been one instance where they've sought me out to do something. All the other ones have been me trying to establish a relationship with somebody and then doing some research for them. And that was the consulting work, was research. Because I'm a researcher, rec therapist, not a practicing rec therapist. I notice a need.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes from attending conferences and meeting people and chatting with people and, you know, making friends and all that type of stuff. I know, let's not talk about conferences right now, but, you know, doing all of those things and making the relationships with people and finding out who's out there and where the need is. And so that is part of this whole find the facility thing, is where's the need. And so you do have to kind of have your finger on the pulse of rec therapy in your area in order to understand where that need is. I think there will become a point that once you do this enough, you might hit a tipping point where then people will say, hey, I know Charity does this. And you've done a number of jobs. And so then they'll say, hey, if you want somebody to develop you a yoga program, you should talk to Charity. And so then that could be the other way to find out. I think it happens both ways, but it depends. I think in outside of rec therapy, so I used to work for my uncle who's a vet. So way back in my early college days, I was a vet tech working for my uncle's hospital, and he had a consultant come in to do some management stuff because it was just a hot mess in there. And so they sought somebody out, an external company, to come in and do it. So totally different experience, and I think that's probably more typical of how consultants are brought in. Yeah. Okay, phone versus email, or versus in person. What are your thoughts?
I feel like in person is always the best.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I like to start out with email and just kind of say, or like set up a time and give them a gist of what I'll be talking with them about, and then call them, if not in person.
Okay. Okay, thoughts? Any other thoughts? How many people, just with the thought of talking on the phone, you have like anxiety and you're sweaty and heart beating and can't do it?
A little bit.
Okay, we got to get past that, people. I know that we're in this like world of only texting or chat or email, but that's not how, I don't really think that's how consulting works. I think there has to be face-to-face interaction. And if not face-to-face, it's got to be over the phone and cannot be purely email. And I think that is because there's so much lost in communication and written communication. So I write, when I write in handwriting in all capital letters, if I were to do all caps in an email, what is that coming across as? Somebody's yelling at you, right? There are some people who maybe don't kind of follow those social cues type of a thing, and, you know, all caps lock, and I would think maybe I was being yelled at, when in reality that's in person, that wouldn't come across that way, right? I think you know, if you're not good at reading body language, maybe this is a good opportunity to learn how to read body language. In one of my consulting projects, actually the one that I did for this class, when I took this class with Marika a long time ago, I think that my contact got very quickly overwhelmed by what I was asking her to do, but that never came across in any emails until she just stopped responding for like a month. She never responded to anything. Well, she was in Utah and I was in Indiana. So there were some difficulties there with being face-to-face, right? But I mean, she wouldn't even answer my phone calls, so I couldn't even have, you know, phone calls. But if I had had an opportunity to be there face-to-face with any of the times where I was asking her to do things in email, I might have seen the type of look on her face and been able to say, hey, it looks like this is stressing you out, you know, and be able to work through that. You have to do what works in the situation. Face-to-face is not always possible. Over the phone is not always possible. Emails might be it. But I don't think that we should just pick one and only use that one type. If there's an opportunity for face-to-face, even if it's virtual, you know, Zoom, Skype, whatever, that could be really beneficial. I would say texting is probably totally inappropriate for consulting relationships, even if you're really good friends with that person. Probably inappropriate.
I've actually been in contact with my internship supervisor, and I texted her and asked, and I just said like, hey, I have a question. She's like, okay. And I was like, well, I'm going to email it to you so I can be more professional. And then also so I could like keep everything else. So
that's right. There are some things you totally want to keep a record of. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean, yes, text can be a record, but email is more professional. And I would say that never at any point should you ever get so comfortable in a consulting job that you're texting people.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to cross the line and not even realize that you crossed the line, type of a thing. like you send a text at 10 o'clock at night or something like that. Okay, so yeah. All right, making contacts continued here. Okay, so you've met your person, you've identified who your person is at a facility. How do you get in there? What do you do? Be assertive, be assertive, right? So Elizabeth, you had said that you question yourself a lot about things, whatever. That can't happen, right? You got to go into that meeting saying, this is what I'm going to do for you. What do you think about that? So we got to put on our super confidence pants, right? And Natalie, you're sitting there like, yeah, right. That's not going to happen.
That's definitely the weaknesses for me, at least.
So how do we build this up? How do we strengthen that area?
I feel like it's just practice and experience. And then also like doing your research and making sure you really know what you're doing. So you can go in there.
But these are initial introductions, right? Initial contacts. So at this point, we're not necessarily having to go in and say, this is what I think you should do. You know, because it will take time for you to get to a point. Well, and you'll have a lot of knowledge backing you up by the time you get to that point, hopefully. So this is just still establishing that relationship, making that contact with a facility and a person in that facility. So I don't think that you do have to still have some knowledge at that point, but it's different. I think we should, yes, practice is what you need. And we've worked it in here to practice. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, perfect. Okay, you guys pair up in-class people, online people. I think that we should practice introducing ourselves to each other. Pretend that one of you is a consultant, that you have identified a place and been recommended, that I heard through the grapevine that you are interested in having some help developing this or whatever. And so I'd like to talk to you about working with you on this project, okay? So one of you is the consultant, one of you is the client, and just practice doing an introduction of selling yourself as the person who can make this happen. I can pair, give me one quick second.
Okay.
Online people, I can pair you guys. Let me figure out how to do this really quick. I've never done it in Zoom.
I looked out and it's a humor right there. So like I already have that personal connection, but I walked in.
How many online people do we have? We have Tracy, Shelly, Janelle, Jasmine, Sydney. Okay, I've got 5 of you. Five.
After listening to your program, looking at all the wonderful aspects of yoga, round out the program, bring in more physical
Okay, I'm gonna try to do this. Assign. Okay. Janelle and Shelly, you guys are in a room. And Sandy and Sydney, you guys are in a room. And room 3 will be Jasmine, Tracy. Is that everybody?
Yes, that's
That is everybody. Okay, is anybody left out? Okay, open all rooms.
Nice segue.
So did you guys just see something appear for you? Whoa, they all just disappeared.
I've been working with them a lot, so just doing marketing plans. I've already pitched
project.
I think that it
I'll
helps
be able to kind of see
establishing
what
the
you're able to do
need,
and some
establishing
tasks that are not overwhelming, but that they can take on.
Yeah.
You know, like this is going to be good. Well, I mean, I guess when you're actually a consultant, you're not just like this is going to benefit me.
Yeah.
But you know, for my position, I'm able to say like this is a core class that it's going to help me, but also this is my job. and I'm going to get a great experience, and I'll get to implement something, and also learn from other people. And,
You guys are right over there.
So what were you doing at staff training?
yeah, so essentially what I'll do, they have in-services that happen monthly for all the different areas. So we have volleyball, we have our aquatic staff, we have personal fitness / training, fitness instructors, personal trainers. So we have all these different areas. So I want to talk to Lynn about like person-to-person language and different populations you might interact with like on campus or in our department. And then give specific like examples and instructions for like what if situations. Like you have somebody that comes to the wall that uses crutches, like or like not, so getting basically my internship, I will be knowledge on how to adapt in a gym for somebody. So just teaching people how to language for those kinds of situations. And I'm gonna have to meet with managers of the different areas, and I've already like talked to just one of the Haley. She's over the operations staff, so they're the ones that are working picking up the schedules. She's also a prime mom and big bar. Sherry is going to be approval to like come facilitate trainings, but I want it to also be something that I can like hand to somebody and say like you can continue this process.
Do you guys have like a protocol for making a competition?
I would say
so for example, there is a student that uses a chair that has we have our main area that has like the more absorbent, like shock absorbent flooring versus like our kind of brand type. And we switched to the other flooring because his weight suit is down to the floor. And so like I have an operations student ask me,
Hey guys,
how do we
can you hear me? I can't hear you. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. All right. That was loud. Sorry. Okay, so I just want to use. Don't mind me. How did it go? Your practice? Did you both do the consultant?
So Shelly did really good, and she was just giving me tips of, how to go about introducing yourself and all that, because I never did it. Shelly's an inside consultant with her, and I never did it before, so.
Yeah, it's probably really different too as an internal consultant than it would be as an external consultant as well.
I think there's a lot more pushback. I think, sorry. I think that if you like I was trying to tell Janelle, like if she goes in like as a fresh face, like it's a lot different because they have no preconceived notions about you. Like in my field, it's like, okay, you're coming from the like golden facility and you're a CTRS and I'm not, and and they already have these conceived notions that I'm going to come in and try to be better, and that's not the case. But in your situation, you're new, so they don't really know you that well, so you have that in your ball. Like you can bust up in there and they don't have a clue if you're shy or you're scared because they don't know you, so
Right.
do your own thing. And then because you're new, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Doing it, so.
It's nice to have that anonymity, right? A sense of anonymity that nobody knows who you are, and you don't. So again, it's really different when it's an internal versus an external as well. So even if
you could be a superhero and they don't even know, like ex-hero.
But either way, you still have to be assertive. And so let's say you are an internal consultant and you have to go to some other, a sister company within your program, in the next city over or whatever. You still have to walk in there and say, I'm Janelle and I'm here to work with you. I've been assigned to work with you or whatever, however you would be, get that. Because I'm assuming that would not be so much of a you seeking it out as opposed to you just get told you're going to go do this. Is that how it works for you, Shelly?
Yeah, and sometimes like I go to some of the facilities that don't need a consultant, and that's really hard But usually what I do, like a few times I've actually went in the bathroom and cried and then came out and like just washed my face because they were so hateful. But then, but so I get really nervous too. I was kind of nervous talking to you too. If I laugh a lot, I'm super nervous. So, yeah.
Okay, well, hang on one second. Did you guys all switch with each other? So make sure everybody gets to try as the consultant and as the client. Okay, I'm popping into the other breakout rooms, so give me a few more minutes. Okay, sorry guys. Yeah, so even if you're nervous in your interviews, you have to maybe go into a bathroom and cry.
Or throw up.
Or throw up or whatever it is and come out with, ready to go and being on top of your game and saying, I'm here and I'm doing it. So, okay, I'm going to leave your room and go to another one. Continue, carry on. And
may the force be with you.
Yeah, if you guys are done, you can leave your breakout room and come back to the main.
How do you do that on Zoom?
No.
It's in the corner and it says leave breakout room. It's in
gotcha. It was like asleep. Okay.
Hi, ladies.
Hey.
I'm barging in. I'm eavesdropping, if that's okay.
That's okay.
All right. How'd your practice intros go?
Good. We were helping each other find. We were looking for. What was my search? Dementia consultant in Greenville.
Mm-hmm. Did you do some practice like introduction type things?
We did at the beginning, but then it was hard to figure out what consultant we wanted to do.
So you do have to be able to explain and articulate what it is that you want to do. So that's an important, very important piece of the puzzle here.
That's what we're looking for.
Okay.
It looks like we have dementia and I'd like to do adaptive sports, or like outdoor sports.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how would you, let's say that somebody has called you and said, Sandy, we hear you're a consultant for outdoor rec for people with disabilities. Can you come talk to us about how you could help our program?
Yeah, absolutely. What are you looking for? I mostly go into questions first to do some more fact finding on where they're at,
mm-hmm.
And what they're looking for, and then go into what are your interests? What sort of sports are you looking for? Are you looking for outdoor, like hiking, bouldering, gardening, and then what's your staffing level?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are their skill levels?
Fact finding mission. That's a good phrase. Okay, it's awkward when we don't have like real situations here. So I know. Okay, you guys can leave the breakout room. If you just go hover in the bottom corner, right corner, it says leave breakout room, and go back to the main room. I got one more room to pop into.
Okay.
It's funny.
Okay, guys. Hi, I'm eavesdropping. How's your practice going?
I think we did good.
I think okay. Yeah.
Okay. Can I hear one?
Sure.
I don't know. I want to, like, some groups didn't get very far into their talking to each other. So what did you guys pretend? Like, what kind of facility were you introing yourself to?
Oh, we did the ones that we were planning on doing.
Okay.
I hope that was okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
So did you go along the lines of they asked you to be there, or you were cold calling them trying to get in the door?
Probably just cold calling, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi, I'm here. This is my name, and this is what I can offer you.
Great.
Is that how you? It's
Yeah, we did
awkward,
name,
isn't it?
and then like credentials, and then like what we could do for them. in response to a problem that they had posted, or for me at least, it was a problem they had posted on their Facebook page.
Oh, see, good. In response to an already identified problem is a lot easier than you're not really sure if they actually need anything and you're just like trying to pitch them a cold call basically, which is awkward. Okay, that's good. All right. We will pop out of the breakout room so you can go back to the main room. If you hover on the bottom corner, it says leave breakout room.
Okay.
Okay. How's it going? Good? Everybody did okay? All right, we have a few more seconds before our breakout rooms close and we have everybody back. But how do I just do it? Don't give them 30 seconds, just do it. Oh, they're there, okay. Okay, so really quick, let's just talk about this real fast and then we will take a break. So Shelly, are you there? Shelly? There you are. Can you share with us some of what you said when I popped into your breakout room about some of your experiences that you've had going to facilities and making that first initial contact?
Sometimes like whenever I go, because I'm an internal consultant, I get a lot of I get a lot of friction, what's the word? Resistance, because the person that I'm actually coming to assist already knows me and they think, oh, she's a CTRS, she's coming into this and she knows everything, and they don't really want to hear the new things that you have to offer, because when you come into that environment, they kind of sort of feel like they have to defend their territory, like you're going to help them get fired, or they come across as very abrasive, like they don't want to listen. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, no, it's so
really long day.
No, it's totally fine. It's so different for when you're an internal consultant compared to when you're an external consultant. And, we talked about this a little bit last week on what the perceptions of consultants are. And somebody wrote in their comments on the discussions that they always thought of consultants as being schmoozy. Who wrote that? I don't know. It might have been you, Charity, that you wrote. I always thought consultants were like schmoozy people.
I don't think I wrote that.
Okay, maybe not you.
But I can, yeah.
But I think what you just hit on is that other people think that, oh, they're bringing in consultants and they're just going to fire everybody. So from the get-go, you were already having to work against that. So it's really important how you present yourself that very first time. I don't know if you have to say that either from the get-go, that I'm not here to get you fired. I'm just here to make things run more smoothly or whatever. But, every consulting project or consulting project is probably the best word, has a different end goal. And it doesn't always result in firing people. I've never worked on a consulting project that resulted in firing people, ever. If you start to mix that consulting role with management, like in those funny movie clips we watched last week, then it could cross that line. But regardless of whatever that end goal is or whatever the reason that you are there to be consulting, you have to be able to make that first impact on people and make them feel good about you being there and feel good about what you're going to do there, what you're going to offer. So sometimes you'll cold call places. They're not looking, maybe they don't know they need a consultant. They're not looking for somebody. And so you're initiating something without any prior knowledge about their facility or their needs. Other times it all stems from an already identified need, and they either found you on their own, or you were recommended by somebody, or you heard about it and you sought it out based on what you heard. And your way in is different with both of those. Do you have a hand?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to imagine if you were to do this consulting, at what point you would say, and this is how much I charge. Because since you came into them, came over and offered your services.
Yeah. Hi, you didn't ask me to come here, and I'm going to tell you that you need my services, and I charge this much.
Yeah, that's it.
Good question. It has to be early on in the discussion, because they're not going to hire you if they can't afford you, right? And is there somebody in the chat? Did I
Oh no, I
miss?
was moving Shelly as a friend. I believe.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. My coworkers wanted to see what like class was like because I've been telling them about how we actually do have class.
That's
so they're
awesome.
coming in. Yeah, they're saying hi.
Okay,
Saying
guys,
hi.
I lost the chat. Welcome to class. Feel free to join in. So yeah, where do you talk about the money side of things? That, I mean, I think we're going to talk about this at some point, but we can hit it here. It has to be early on, you know, because if they don't know if they can afford you, then why have future conversations if they can't? But it probably wouldn't be like the first meeting when you're cold calling somebody. And I'm trying to think of an example where sometimes the consulting jobs come after you've planted a seed that you're here and that you could do this, and they don't respond for months and months and months. And then they say, hey, a long time ago, you told me you could do this. And I think we're in a place now where we could have something like this happen. And so you've already made an initial contact where you've planted a seed, it grew a little bit, and it's at those later conversations where you would then say, okay, well, this is how much I charge. So in one consulting project that I'm currently wrapping up right now, well, it's been done for a while, but now I'm just working on getting a publication out of it. They asked me way in the beginning, well, how much would it cost to do something like this, a research project like this? And I didn't really know because I had never done a project like that before in this role, in that type of a consulting role. I'd done other things, but not something that big. So I had to come up with a budget. And I said, I'm not really sure. And they said, well, come up with a couple different budgets for us. And so I came up with like this platinum level budget. That's what I called it. Platinum, gold, silver, bronze, whatever, 3 or 4 different budgets. And they chose one and said, this is the one that we like. So I had different levels of services at each one of those kind of budgets. And so they picked one and that's what they paid for.
Cable package.
What's that?
The cable package. Pick your package and your price.
That's right. But, you know, for a nonprofit organization that has no money and, you know, they got private donors to donate money to cover research projects. And so they had to really stick within that. So yeah, they liked the gold level one. They did not want the platinum level $75,000 budget.
Ooh,
So
but gold is close.
Gold is close. It was a $50,000 budget, and they said we could do this one, and I was like, oh, okay. I was not expecting that. I was expecting them to go with like the cheapo budget, like the $20,000 low end one. Okay, so you do need to establish what your rates are because that will come up pretty early on. In the course of this class, you'll say it's free 90 free. And I'm happy to provide that service for you at that rate. Yeah. Free 90 free. You guys are awesome. Okay. So let's take a break really quick. We'll come back at 7:30. So 6 or 7 minute break and swing on back, and then we will wrap up this awesome discussion. We're going a little slow, so I'm going to kind of speed through our next PowerPoint slides. Ready, go, break.
I will not be here.
Since that's free.
I saw him around the summer.
Guy Taylor? Yeah, I saw him.
Guy Taylor? Girl Taylor.
Remember Girl Lex? Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, because I never got that, but now I get it.
Because she's a girl. The girl Alex. Girl Lex.
Oh,
But I don't know why we didn't call the other Alex Boy Alex. We just called him Alex.
Boy Alex. Bolex. Is that a watch? No, that's a little.
All right. Not sure how I made the PowerPoint work last time when how did I do that?
You could do like old magazines or something.
Do like yeah.
I don't think I did that. All right, we've got everybody back, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and I can't remember how I shared things last time to make them work nicely. So we're just gonna have this weird way to look at the PowerPoints and have the chat open just in case we need it. Okay. So practice makes perfect. If you're uncomfortable talking to people to get your foot in the door, you just got to practice doing it. If that's where you want to go with your life as a rec therapist. But for sure, for the purposes of this class, you need to be comfortable talking to somebody and trying to get in and do that. It's a little bit easier when you're calling and asking to work with somebody because you have a class project and it's going to be free. You're not asking them to pay you to do something they might not necessarily want. So it should be okay for this class. So more information on this initial meeting. You have to know who you're talking to, you know who your client is, know everything you can possibly find out about this facility. So I would hope that before you cold called somebody about a consulting project that you've already looked up this company to some degree and learned about it. Once you set up that initial meeting, like they say, yes, we want this, and you have that initial meeting, then there will be further questions to ask about who you're working with directly there. So who's your person, your contact person, et cetera. Who do you report to, things like that. All of that is to help set up all of the components of your MOA, which is due in a couple of weeks. Okay, so you have the get your foot in the door meeting, which is an initial meeting. And then once you're in, you have your first meeting with everybody there. And you have a whole different level of questions to ask. And this is, Sandy made a good, called it fact finding. You're on a fact finding mission. And so there's lots of things that you need to find out in those initial meetings. Okay, so going to Shelley's point about sensing this like uneasiness and everything, if that's what it's like when you go in to a place, you may have to address that right from the get-go. It seems like people are a little bit uncomfortable with me and what I may be doing here. Let's talk about this so I can make sure that I address any inaccuracies or incorrect thinking about what it is that I'm going to be doing here, because you can't leave that stuff unsaid. And that has to go really from the beginning once you're in as well, because it will just turn into roadblocks, and roadblocks all along the way. All right. Wow, there's a lot in this initial meeting, what you have to do. So we need to really identify what this project is, right? What the problem is that you're going to try to address in working with the facility. So I think that warrants a really deep discussion. Is this, it's good to kind of reflect active listening skills. So that would be like saying things like, oh, what I heard you say is you have concerns about this, this, and this aspect of your service delivery, and you'd like me to fix this, this, and this. So kind of repeating back to what they said so that you can make sure that that's really what they said. Sometimes it might come across where you do that and they're like, no, that's not actually what I want you to do at all. So either you weren't listening or they did not explain it well, which could be both, either way, but needing to work through all of those problems to make sure that you're on the same page about what the issue is. Determining what the client wants and what they offer. So we're going to look at an MOA and kind of all the pieces of it. But what do they want in terms of the product at the end? Do they want a report? Do they want a presentation? Do they want a program? Do they want a whatever? That has to be discussed all at the beginning. And what are they going to offer? What's their role going to be in producing that, if at all? So then you would set up your meeting for the next time to discuss your MOA. So then you'll go home, take all these notes, type it up into a little contract MOA, and then you would come back with that to discuss all the parameters of the MOA. This is what everybody is agreeing to do. We all agree that this is what the problem is, and this is how we're going to achieve that problem, or achieve our goals in addressing that problem. All that goes into the document, which for the purposes of this class does not get signed until I give you feedback. Just throwing that out there again. Okay, what to bring you to those initial meetings? business cards and other pertinent information. So if you've done something like this before and you want to provide an example of what those products might be at the end, say, here's an executive report that I wrote for the National Ability Center. That was my consulting project. So you can see the type of work that I do, or brochures or whatever. Paper, pen, or if you want to be on an iPad and you take notes on an iPad, as long as you don't have Angry Birds open while you're sitting there in your meeting with them, things like that. Always a appropriate dress for the setting. So, if you're doing your meeting, your project with people at Fike, you might not want to be dressed like that, even though it's appropriate for the setting in a work, situation. But I'm not saying that you would, but always err on the side of being overdressed for what you're doing. Okay, so the MOA. Here's all of the pieces that go into establishing this contract, basically, between you and the facility about how you're going to do this project. It's due September 26th, so 3 weeks from now at midnight. Who are the involved parties? So facility and who your contact person is. What is the project purpose? What are your objectives? So I believe mine was to determine the needs associated with having a family component at the National Ability, or family services at the National Ability Center. They did not have any family programming when I was there, but people had expressed, or clients had expressed a desire to have family programming, and people at the NAC were saying, yeah, we got this, but then they didn't actually provide any services. So there was some disconnect between what the clients thought they could get and what the staff thought they could provide. So I was going in to do a needs assessment to determine the need for family programming. What are those deliverable products? An executive summary, a fully developed program, a published article. That should never be a deliverable because you don't have control of the time frame on that. On a publication, it could take forever. That's what my situation is right now. Those deliverable products are negotiable. At the very least, I would say a report is probably a deliverable. There might be a presentation required, and for the purposes of this class, there is a presentation required, so that would be part of your deliverables. So what are your roles and responsibilities as the consultant? What are you going to do? What is the chain of command for communication? What are the tasks that are going to be accomplished, and who's accomplishing them? So data collection will be primarily you. Data analysis will primarily be you. Your client roles and responsibilities, so they're going to grant access to patient records, or they're going to grant access to patients or clients so that you can do interviews. Whatever it is, I mean, I can't speak to exactly what this should look like because it's going to be so unique for each one of your projects. So we can talk about this in class as you start refining these ideas, bring it in saying, this is what I think that we're going to do for deliverables. So we'll talk about it. This is where you guys really need to talk about your projects in this class because everybody can help kind of weigh in on it. Schedule and completion dates. This is very, very, very important so that this is something that is completable by the end of this semester. So it's really a good idea to have the tasks listed maybe in a little table, and then due dates on that. So I'll show you an example in a minute of what something like that could look like. Every MOA or contract usually has a confidentiality clause, and there's something like that built into the examples already that you can just literally cut and paste type of thing and tweak to fit your facility. But if you're talking to clients, reviewing patient records, things like that, all of that is data and all of that is information that can be used in the purposes of your project, but can't go beyond, obviously, this project and this class. Signatures, although not until after I review. So I know none of you have started drafts, I assume, of your MOA. Anybody? Totally ahead of the game on that. Starting a draft? No, that's okay. But I would say this week you should start drafting your MOA. Now you know. Okay, let's look at some really quick. Hang on. Gotta open some. I've already put these up on Canvas, but I'll just open and share my screen. That's a blank document. Nope, there it is. That's weird. Okay, so this is one of our former students, her project. So, and this is an agreement between Alice, and those her credentials, grad student here at Clemson, external consultant, and Shelley Dutcher, who's the administrator at this place, and this other lady who's the rec therapist at this place. So I assume in reading this that maybe one of those is the boss, administrator, and the other person was her contact that she worked directly with and all of that. It's okay to have multiple people in there, but I think we talked about this last week. Too many cooks in the kitchen can be problematic, so we don't want 20 people listed here. We just want the most important people to getting the project done. And so we can talk about that. Project purpose and objectives. Evaluate the current documentation process at this place. Improve or develop an evaluation system for the RT equine therapy sessions. Determine appropriate documentation systems of Camp Red Cedar's existing RT program. Okay, so not knowing anything about this, it seems like there's some overlap between some of those, but maybe there's something very different. But this is stuff that I would work out with you guys as you submit your MOAs. Like, how are these different? You know, and if they're not, then you only need one of those. Deliverable products. So a report on information of the needs for the evaluation process based on the documentation audit, which will include suggested forms for use to address any issues noted in the report. So maybe what she used here was the standards of practice documentation audit. Standards of practice is a recommended book for this class so that you can, if you're interested in doing any of those elements in there, the management stuff. Look at this, guys. Management is rearing its ugly head from last year. Develop a PowerPoint. This should be part of everybody's deliverables. It will be in class, and I definitely encourage you all to give your actual presentation to the site where you are. And then detailed description of the changes and/or new documentation evaluation forms for the rec therapy department. Okay. Consultant's roles and responsibilities. So she's going to audit the evaluation reports and assessments based on the standards of practice, like that. Review and audit 8 to 10 RT documentation files. So she's probably just pulling random files and doing a random audit on things. Ooh, the pressure. Dun, dun, dun. Keep the client updated of the consultant's process at least twice during the consultant project via email or phone call. Really important to keep people updated. I would say that that is my weakness right there. Audit the other RT rec therapist at Camp Cedar's files along with Ashley's files to compare and contrast the two therapists' style and documentation. Okay, so looking for consistency among the rec therapists. Develop the assessment or evaluation forms for additional documentation or just the existing forms. I don't know. I may have had questions about that because developing something or adjusting existing forms, that's two very different levels of work. And so I don't know why there's ambiguity there on which one she would do. So I would probably give feedback on that in terms of clarifying what you're actually doing on that one. Client's roles and responsibilities. So allow permission of consultant to review the existing documentation files, allow consultant access to the client records and documents, allow consultant at least 5 days to spend in the office reviewing files on site, and respond to consultants' calls and emails within 72 hours to keep communication open. What do you guys think about that? Is that a lot to ask of a site, do you think? I don't think so either, but there are some places and some people who would look at even fairly non-invasive things like this and be like, I can't do more. There's nothing in here where the client is actually having to do any of the work, right? I don't see this other than responding to phone calls and emails. They're just allowing access. All things to negotiate, right? There will be potentially some projects that would need the client to do something. Like, the lady that I kept emailing, I was asking her to then send out my requests for things to their participant database, and she wouldn't even do that. I think that was in her mind too much, and she was freaking out about it. And so I thought that was not a big request to send out my email to their database, participant database, but apparently she did. And so something that we didn't talk about at the beginning I did because it was in my MOA, but something that she didn't express concern about. And so that's why I was like, when she just stopped answering my emails and phone calls, should have told me at the beginning that you had a problem with that. I don't know why she did, or if she did, but it seemed like she did. Anyways, you kind of have to anticipate potential problems, basically is what I'm getting at, and work them into the MOA and how things are going to be worked out. Schedule and completion dates. So you can see her timeline is similar to our fall semester here. So she was having her initial meeting this week with people. So that would be probably your guys' same timeline, is to be having your initial meeting this week, at the latest next week. She sent a thank you. She sent the MOA on the day that it was due for review. Send an email to set the date to sign the MOA. Edit the MOA. This is probably based on feedback from Marika after that class period. Doing class to get final approval to then move forward. Bi-weekly meetings. Feedback and wrap up in November. So really, October is going to be probably your heavy month with this project. Maybe tiny little bit in November, but really it'll be October. This is a good timeline. There's your confidentiality. You can put my name in there instead of anything. But then once she got the final signatures, you can see that happened in October. This gets scanned into your final project when you turn things in at the end of the semester. I want to see the actual signatures. Okay. So any questions about this? This is one example. Look at all the ones that are in there. But what do you guys think? Yes, no, holy crap?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Like working with Mike with the study that we're doing now,
Mm-hmm.
there's really no need for me to do research or
Mm-hmm.
anything. I'm really just drawing upon the results that we had from our needs-based assessment. So that cuts out all of the research from my end. And he's expressed that it's a need of what I'm going to do.
Are you talking about research to find a facility, find a problem, find a thing?
Yeah, to find an issue.
Yeah. No, so you're kind of coming with
my timeline
it.
is fast track.
Yeah, and that's fine. Totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll still need to set up an initial meeting to say, hey, I'm working on a class project and I think I could address your need in this project for free, 90 free. Please say that when you meet with him.
He would like that. He would actually.
Yeah, everybody's timelines are going to be a little bit different, but still kind of the same in terms of you have to have it done by, if you're not done by Thanksgiving, largely done, you're going to be hurting. All right. Anybody else have any thoughts or concerns?
The paper they're signing, is that just an agreement? I know I just said that, so I missed you discussing that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be sign here, and not have an educated, this is just saying that you're agreeing that it's okay that I'm doing this, and these are my expectations.
And it's their expectation of it's your expectation of their role in it too. Okay. So if you write in there that they're going to give you access, they're going to participate in 20 interviews with you, they're going to make you lunch every single day, do all these things, and they sign it, they should do those things, right? Somebody should work that in. I was going to show you guys a little task box to kind of keep things organized. This is helpful. This is something I've done.
So if my idea doesn't work out, I plan on doing something at FIKE with some of the students. Would I have to get any type of approval, like from Clemson's, like maybe even like IRB or something like that?
Not IRB.
Anything like official approval? Or is that something that I will figure out throughout this?
Like, did you just say Clemson Life?
I was thinking of doing that.
You're going to have to talk directly to the Clemson Life people, and they're going to have to give approval, but that would kind of come through the MOA.
Sure.
That's their saying, yeah, we approve of this.
Okay.
But in terms of more official beyond that, no.
Okay.
Even if it's, I don't know exactly what you want to do, but if there's like programs that occur with our staff at FIKE, but it's with the Clemson Life students. So even if she was working with our staff in the programming in that sense, since the involvement is with the Clemson Life students, she'd still have to go with them too. Or I don't know what you want to do, so I don't know if that helps with your processing. But if you're trying to look and assess the Be a Star program or something like that, that would be more on our programming side at FIKE versus
Clemson Life.
Right. It depends what your approach is.
I'm still figuring out what my second. I have an initial idea of what I'm going to go back after days. So I'll figure it out when it comes time.
Yeah, that's soon.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about it, I can help you figure those elements out. Okay, so I just want to show you kind of a project reporting timeline thing that I did for that big $50,000 project. Down over here. So this was like an 18-month project that I did with them. So there were a lot of tasks, and the timelines were not always concrete timelines, and that's how sometimes these things work out. And so I had a no later than this. So a lot of these things, as you see here, this is what I sent as a final report to them. At the end, they wanted to know kind of how everything played out in December 2016. So I started things way back in early 2015. And a lot of these things, so I accomplished before their actual due dates. RT is like the research team. So who's doing these tasks, who's accomplishing these tasks. Some of these were just me as like the main person. But then I had other researchers on this project with me, and so we all had different tasks. So I had to identify who was doing what. But again, no later than this time, and here are some notes about it. So I ran into kind of a lot of problems as I was doing this project through no fault of my own, but more that I was working with like 5 different sites to collect data, and they were all each a hot mess in their own way. And so it kind of delayed a lot of things, and I had to talk about that, because if I don't explain that, then they're just going to think I didn't do a good job, right? And they're going to be pissed about paying me that money. That's what happened. So you do, when you're being paid for this stuff, like you're offering a service and a product, and you have to be accountable for it every step of the way. Even if you're not being paid for like this class project, you still have to be accountable for it. I also, here at the end, these were the dissemination tasks. So they wanted me to present at their conferences. They wanted a white paper, executive report type of a thing. They wanted me to present at scholarly conferences, and then they wanted an article ready for submission. So not published, just ready for submission. And so, for something like that, if you're doing research consulting, publication timelines are never something you can plan on happening in a certain time point. Here we are almost a year after it was submitted and still not accepted. Bad. Anyways, I also put some context in there talking about some of the problems that I ran into, just so that they didn't think that I was crappy. Also because they had turnover in their executive board, and so that really sucked because all these new people came in and they're like, we paid this much money for this, you know, so they did want kind of an accounting of everything. And so then I had to get on the defensive a little bit and do a little explanation about that timeline and how these tasks were accomplished. I'd say this is a lot more involved than what you would do in this class project, but this is what you would do if this were a paid gig type of thing. Any questions on this? You can put something like this in your MOA instead of just listing it out the way that she had it. I like tables, so it works for me in my brain. Tables don't always work for people though, so. Okay, stop sharing, get out of there. Okay, any questions so far about the MOA? All right. I think the only thing that we have left to really talk about I just kind of built these slides into the PowerPoint here, but we have consultant interviews coming up due in a couple of weeks too. And so there are just some kind of handy questions that you can ask your people as you interview them. Again, from any field. Who is this consultant? So provide all of their contact information. What's their business? What do they do exactly? This PowerPoint will be posted, so don't worry if you can't write these questions down as fast as I'm going to go through it right now. How do they solicit new clients? You know, are you cold calling people, or are you being referred? How do they market to new clients? How do they maintain their clientele? These are all questions you absolutely should for sure be asking. How do you develop your role as a consultant with that new client? What challenges do they face? How do they network? What is their favorite and least favorite parts of being a consultant? What advice do they have for a novice consultant? What else would they like to add? Anything like that. These will be in the PowerPoint. You can come back to them. But I think our first consultant interview is due in 2 weeks. It is. So if you have not found somebody, let's get on that. Throw it out to your Facebook friends. Friends, I'm looking for a consultant to interview for a consulting class. Is there anybody who is a consultant?
Would it be inappropriate? Sorry. Would it be inappropriate to interview like a family member?
Nope. I interviewed my uncle who is a consultant, so
Sweet.
it's okay.
Okay.
As long as they are legitimately a consultant.
And we do like a brief write-up.
Yes, in the syllabus it explains how many pages and all that type of stuff. So it can be single space. It doesn't need to be APA, and I'm not expecting any like references or anything like that. No. Okay, so what I want to do for the last little 30 minutes is go around and talk about your projects. Tell me what your topics are, what your facilities are. Some of you have talked to me outside of class, which is good, but there are a lot of people in this class, and so I'm having a hard time keeping track of everybody, and that's okay. But I want to try to spend some portion of class every week talking about projects and where you are, what your progress is. So anybody wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay, so last week I presented the idea of bringing in like a chair yoga program to a place I worked at this past summer. And after thinking about that, I was like, that doesn't sound too intriguing. And it would be hard for me to contact that initial person and so on and so forth. But now I'm thinking about doing like a program evaluation for the rec sports at Lakeshore, which is where I did my internship. Because that whole summer whenever I was there, I noticed that they didn't do any type of evaluation. I remember asking them like, hey, do y'all do any type of evaluation? Like what? And they don't have anything. So I've been in contact with my internship supervisor, and I presented this idea to her, and now I'm just waiting for her to reply.
Are you talking about like participant satisfaction type of evaluation?
Yeah.
Okay. So they have to do some other type of evaluation, or it's a questionable
Yeah.
internship site, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good idea.
And I feel like
I think that's doable.
Yeah, and like in my career, I feel like this is something I can look back on and actually use in my programs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This developing program evaluations is a huge skill, even if it's just, I don't want to say surface level as if that's a bad thing, but it's not very deep, in
Right,
terms of
sure.
the different types of evaluation. We could do program evaluation, but participant satisfaction or that's your first level into program evaluation. So it's a good place to start if they have nothing. Okay, next, somebody online want to share?
I'll go. I'm going to work with the nonprofit Specialized Equine Services to develop a standardized volunteer training program. Right now it's piecemeal together. There isn't a standard program, and it really slows down the implementation of the various interventions we do, because you spend half of the first session just trying to get the volunteers doing the right thing.
So where are you in the progress or the process of getting it started with them?
I've met with Ramona. She's the president for the nonprofit. We're ready to start working out what they expect from me for the MOA and what I think I can do within the semester.
Okay. Great. Okay, next. Anybody? Go ahead.
So I was going to do the ASHRA management standards of practice audit at one of the facilities here. One of the other master's students just started working at a new facility and they didn't have an RT there before. So I kind of want to do that assessment, see where they're at, what they might need to work on, and what their strengths are.
Okay. Sweet. That's right. You came and talked to me about that. Mm-hmm. And so where are you in the process of getting it started?
So I've talked to Taylor, the CTRS there, and I just talked to her kind of informally, but I need to set up a formal meeting.
So she will be your point of contact for everything in terms of getting you access to whatever you would need. Okay.
Yeah, I want to work with her.
Okay.
Just see if she would be.
Okay. Make sure, guys, in-person people, that you talk loudly so that the mics can pick up, so the online people can hear. Okay, anybody online want to share?
I will.
Okay, go ahead.
I wrote a MOA, a drafted one, and did a program with the Urban Forestry unit in Austin, but they're busy because of Hurricane Harvey. So I called to ask a consultant to interview her, a friend, and then she asked on the side, hey, can you come do these programs for us? And I said, I have a better idea. Could I write you something and your staff could do those programs for you? And so she was excited about that. So I think I'm going to do that now.
Okay. So
yeah.
Where are you in the process?
I'm just rewriting it, and it'll be a hiking program, and it'll be a 6-week program.
Okay, but in terms of setting up the MOA and doing all that stuff, where are you? Still
I'm just tweaking a few. I'm trying not to make it be too far from the one I already wrote.
Okay.
So I have a rough draft.
Okay, great. Next, anybody?
I'll go.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna do mine with GHS with the adaptive sports program there.
Mm-hmm.
So I emailed the CTRS who leads the adaptive sports program
Mm-hmm.
to see, because about a year ago when I was volunteering there, I noticed that well, she mentioned to me that there's a lack of commitment from people and also lack of advertising or good marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I emailed her about that, and she said that she would really like for me to work with her. So we're talking on Friday.
Okay, sweet. Good, you guys are moving along. This is good timing for these things to be happening right now in the second week. So great. All right, next.
Oh, I'll go.
Anybody?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay. So I am doing essentially a training program for the staff at the Fike. Wow, words. The gym on campus called Fike here at Clemson Campus Recreation Department. I'm going to work with them and the different area managers, and I've already talked to one, and she's over the climbing wall, aquatics, and the operations staff. And then I've talked to the director, and I talked to him first, and basically was like, "Hey, this is my class, the project, and I would love to come in and implement this." And he said that it was right in line with like a lot of the department's goals and things like that. So essentially, the program, it's a training program for the staff to help create a more inclusive environment. So what is person first language? What are populations that you might see that come in here? How do you interact? How do you accommodate? And I want it to be something tangible that I can hand out to somebody.
Okay, so are you implementing it or are you just developing it?
I'm going to implement it. I mean, I don't have to, but I've already talked to my supervisor, Haley. I already talked to her and asked if I could come to, they have in-services every month. And when I was asking out the dates of when those were.
Yeah.
So, but if that's not feasible, then I'll just create it and then they can implement it. Because either way, I wanted them to have something tangible that they could continue it.
Yes. And so you're acting as like an internal consultant. So there's this fine line between developing something and implementing something and crossing the line between consultant and kind of manager.
Yeah.
So when you're not in this consulting class, like what is your role at Fike? What's your job there? Are you management level or like front level?
I'm one of the student supervisors.
Yeah. So you're in a weird position already where your roles are being crossed a little bit. I would say for the purposes of this class, maybe you're just developing, but then as soon as class ends in December, you can implement.
Next semester, implement it. Okay.
Yeah, as your job, as your normal job. Yeah.
That's those delegation skills.
Exactly.
Practice.
And, maybe it would happen multiple times over the course of the semester because they happen all the time. And so this is something I would challenge you to think about. Is this a one-time training or is this a multiple session training over the course of the whole? Because I'm imagining, are these trainings for new employees every month that they do it, or is it an ongoing thing?
Ongoing, keeping everybody on the same page, up to date on everything.
Yeah. Think about a multiple session type training instead of just a one-time thing, but I'd wait to implement till next semester. Okay, go team. Next, online somebody.
I'll go. So I have an idea, but I just want to make sure that it's okay. I would like to create I work at a nursing home, and I would like to create a family-based program where the families come in and get educated of the disease process of dementia, and maybe do things with the residents, put activities together, and just have a social night where they can interact and with other families and the residents. And just as an educational piece and a community, base. I don't know how to explain it that well.
Okay. I'm trying to do some active listening. So what I heard you say was that I may not have been listening close enough to that.
So I just want it to, I emailed you, so maybe it would be better in writing. But I would like to create a program where the families feel comfortable having the residents in the nursing home. A lot of them are unsure at first and not trusting of the facility. So it's in a way to create a bond with the families.
Got it. So this is soon after they have a family member placed in your facility, not as like a family program, like come and do family bingo night or anything like that. This is, man, I used the worst activity for long term. Sorry.
It's okay.
Right there. But, you know, so it's not activity family programming, it's education. This is what you just introduced your family member to in terms of bringing them here, and now
to
trying
provide
to get
them with any updates or just, you know, support.
okay. And would this be same question as what I asked Brooke, a one-time thing or a multiple session thing?
Well, I was thinking it would be like a once a month thing.
New topics every month, or?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. So where are you in the process of talking to people to get things set up?
Well, I just wanted to kind of talk to you first and get, you know, to make sure
Would you
that
do
was
this at the place where you work?
Yeah.
Okay, so similar to Brooke, a fine line between developing something and
Yeah, it made me think when you were talking to her, I'm like, that sounds like me. So.
Okay, I think this is a good idea.
Okay.
And I think that the development of it could be feasible for this class project.
Okay. We do have a community reach person who just makes sure people who come in, they're comfortable. Would you suggest that I talk to her about it, and then maybe I can create a program for her to implement?
If she would naturally be the person who would implement a program like that, then yeah, maybe that is, I mean, were you thinking that you would be the one that would implement
Yeah,
it?
at first, yeah.
Maybe this is part of this fact-finding stage of developing a project, is who would normally implement a program like that? Would it be a frontline service provider like you, or would it be, I don't know, are you in a management position at all?
Yeah.
Okay, or would it be a management level? And is that other lady who you said the community person, is that considered a management level?
It is.
Just finding out who would be the most appropriate person to implement a program like that, and then decide whether it's going to be you or somebody else after you finish this class.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next.
So I'm working at the Sullivan Center, which is a clinic on Clemson's campus. And I had the idea because we have a hard time getting people to participate in like employee programs like the rec therapists offer. And I don't know, it's just been like an ongoing issue. So like if I could figure out like a plan that they could follow to help recruit like employees to.
Or maybe find out why they don't participate first before you come up with a plan.
Yeah, something along those lines. I haven't really finalized. I've just been brainstorming. So
I think you'd need to take one step back before you come up with a plan to help them participate, is find out why they don't participate.
Okay.
So
would that
because
be
as
like,
an employee of Clemson, I can give you my thoughts on why I don't participate. You know, but that would probably influence your plan type of a thing. So if there's no information anywhere on why they don't, that might be a better first step than the plan side of things.
Okay. Would that be her whole project of creating a gathering of information? Or would she have
And
to
then make
take
recommendations
Okay.
and potentially develop a plan, but for sure there has to be a why they don't participate element to this.
Okay.
I mean, and that could, I mean, can't believe I'm going to suggest this, but you could create something like a link for a survey on Qualtrics and then have that survey sent out to all the faculty in an email. We get 5 billion emails a day from the university, but that would be one way to get faculty input on why they don't attend. Did you know that there are faculty programs on campus available to you, such as line dancing, such as this, such as this? I know Audrey does line dancing, so, and she's always saying, come, and I'm like, it never works in my schedule, you know, so things like that. Did you know that these exist? No. Well, there's one issue of why they don't come. Yes, I knew they exist. Well, if you knew they exist, why don't you come? Doesn't work in my schedule, like my class teaching conflicts with it, or I don't want to get sweaty in the middle of my day, or I don't, whatever. When I was at Ole Miss, they had like a walking route on campus for faculty, and it was like marked, mile markers and all that stuff. But I mean, it's Oxford, Mississippi. It's hot and sweaty like it is here. I don't really want to do that in the middle of the day unless I have a place to shower and I bring my clothes with me. I have that here, but I didn't have that there. So that certainly impacts what I'm willing to do in the middle of my day, even if the timing of it could work. So there's all these little pieces that I think you have to know before you can make a plan. And I think you could get those pieces fairly quickly and then have time to do a plan within this semester. And next semester you can implement that plan. I just don't think there's time to implement for anybody in this semester. You can develop something, but you can't implement it. Okay, somebody else? Anyone? We've got everybody. Nope. Oh, we got you.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I'm evaluating the marketing scheme and strategy for Greenville Can, which stemmed from another consulting project that we're doing. So the data collection and all that stuff is easy for me because I'm now analyzing the statistics and numbers both.
Is that a question that we asked in there?
Yes.
Sure, you already have all the data.
So I have all
some
of the data.
Level of the data.
And so it's easy for me. We asked the question of how do you find out information about local programming. A lot of people said like Facebook and social media. Greenville Can does not have a Facebook or any social media, just a website. So it makes my life a little bit easier, telling them exactly what they need. So that's where I'm at. I've already met with the liaison, so to speak. Informally gave him my thoughts, what I think would the project would entail. He's all for it, so just got to formally meet him. And with that.
He's the only employee of Greenville Can, right? So it's not like you can get like an employee perspective other than his. I think that since you have the majority of your data already collected through this other project, it might be worth maybe doing an interview with him to ask a little bit more detailed information. And that could all be considered data that then helps you develop a plan. Okay, good. Tracy and Shelley and Sydney. I think you guys are the last three. Ready?
Mine was developing a mental illness program for different nursing homes. So it's not for just one nursing home, it's actually for a consultant agency. So developing a program for her to be able to take to her other consultant or her other rec therapist. As teach them how to, those with mental illness, how to, life skills, coping skills, community integration.
Did this change from an idea from last week?
No, I just think I'm saying it better than I did last week.
Okay. So you're developing a program, not implementing a program?
Oh, no.
Okay. And so where are you in the process of getting things started?
I was supposed to meet with the consultant today. Her name's Christina. But we had a fire up in the canyon, so I was helping evacuate a building. So I had to schedule with her.
Okay. Hopefully that'll happen soon then, so that you can stay on track.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Next.
So with my job now, it's really hard for me to express new ideas with my supervisor. So I was going to initially try to do like an overall sweep of the activities that she has implemented in the facility that we have to do, and kind of look at them and try to, see which ones were effective and which weren't, because we don't really evaluate them, so to speak. So after realizing I just don't think that would be possible with her way of work, I was thinking about maybe looking towards just our dementia unit, and speaking with the doctor on that unit, because she's open to ideas, and seeing if we could bring more appropriate things down there instead of just general activities that they don't really understand. So maybe more of a Montessori approach to that unit, kind of like an educational piece, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of stuck, kind of in like a rut right now.
Remind me of where you work.
The Carolina Center. for behavioral health in Greenville. Well, Greer.
Oh,
Yeah.
um, do you have the ability to look elsewhere for a project?
I do. I actually contacted a
Sorry.
friend. Nope, that's completely okay. A friend who is at another facility. I'm just waiting to hear back.
Okay. And so what's this other facility?
Another nursing home.
Okay. And so if you were to do what you originally had your idea in that other facility, say it again as it pertains to that other facility.
Just bringing a more Montessori approach to like dementia units, making it more individualized rather than just throwing general activities at them. Because a lot of times they're at different levels and they don't understand what's going on. So maybe a Montessori approach where it's more individualized is better for those units.
Okay.
I don't know. I had a whole idea and then kind of realizing it wasn't going to be possible at my current situation.
And that is sometimes how it works. So I think having a different site is a really good idea. And so if as soon as you can hear back from your contact there, that would be
absolutely
a good idea. And where is this site? This other one?
Well, there's two. I actually contacted my old internship facility where I did contract work at. That's in Davidson. It's a nonprofit retirement community. And then the other one is in Easley.
Okay. So not so far away that if you had to go there, it would be.
Yeah, my parents still live in Davidson, so I can still get there, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good. Keep at it. So yeah, I know your challenges there. Okay, last, Shelley.
I'm one of the facilities that I visit in northern Alabama. I have to go quite frequently, and they have an issue with community involvement. One of the issues that we've worked on over the last 2 years because there's been a big changeover in that building. So one of the things that I spoke with our vice president about this past week is that I think maybe if I came up with a system, like a systematic plan that they could implement to kind of help with things like group outings, utilizing the resources that they have, how to manage staffing, how to coordinate things with the different department heads so that they can actually take more than 2 people to lunch when they have the resources and the ability. So I think if I actually came up with a systematic plan, I think it would go over a little bit better than just my regular visits. So that's my project. It's something I needed to do anyway. So this just kind of pushes me to put it in a more organized format that would be more systematically possible. So I spoke with him this past week on the telephone, and he's going to kind of help with that because the administrator in that facility is not always is receptive to new changes. And so having something to this effect, it's like a plan of action kind of like, then it would be easier for her to accept if he backed it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so this would not be something that you would normally implement in your daily job, right? It would still just be developing.
No. It would be developing a systematic plan that they could put in place. Because whenever I make my visits, I make suggestions about things that they need to improve upon, ways we can kind of streamline things. But this would be something that it's something I've been talking about, but they don't seem to really grasp the concept. But I think sometimes when you have someone in a position that really doesn't know where to start, I think sometimes they feel overwhelmed. And I think maybe if I can put a systematic plan in place where it's kind of like, okay, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here's how you do it. That might be a little bit easier to grasp than just my suggestions in my written reports.
Absolutely. Okay. Good. All right. So we'll do a weekly check-in like this for about 30 minutes to just progress, what problems you're having, if any, things like that. And hopefully no more than 30-ish minutes, just so that we could spend all night talking about everybody's projects. But I think you guys have some good ideas and some good work. Don't get caught up in the potential to implement these things. That's not really the role of a consultant. So just throwing that out there. Next week, there is a quiz that you need to take before you come to class. The link is in the syllabus, and shouldn't take very long for you to do that, but complete that as you come. We do have reading commentaries, or a reading, and so if you want to do one of your commentaries, you can do it next week. Did I grade this? No, I graded, I think, the other classes. No, did I grade this class's commentaries? I did some grading today, guys. I can't remember for which class. Yeah, I graded whoever turned in a first reading commentary last week. I graded that. If you haven't turned one in, it's not a 0. It's just no grade till you turn one in. Again, you have 6 over the course of the semester, so if you don't want to do any until the last 6 weeks, that's your choice. But know that you're not getting 0s necessarily in those unless you don't turn them in at all. I think that's it. I was going to say, I'll see you guys all at ATRA, but that just might not be happening, I think. So next week, that's right. We were going to cancel class because of ATRA, so next week we will meet, and we'll just have class like normal.
I do have a question. If, say, the hurricane does turn, because I live on the Gulf of Mexico, if we were to have like issues with internet in the past when we've had worse storms, that's really bad English, but we sometimes don't have internet for weeks at a time. So yeah. What do you want us to?
If you have any way to shoot me an email,
okay,
say this is what's going on.
Okay.
You can't attend class because of internet problems. Okay. All of the classes will be recorded and posted. So if at some point, a couple weeks down the road, things get back up and running, you can go back and watch those classes. And of course, for a natural disaster, I would not say
grade. Okay.
So, okay. I mean, luckily our technology is such that we can kind of accommodate something like that. But, Irma seems like she's just all over the place. And one of the paths I saw comes straight up the eastern coast of Florida, right into the middle of South Carolina. I was like, oh, well, that could hit us too. So how about next week is just tentative? Does everybody feel okay with that? Let's just wait to see what the heck is going to happen with this hurricane. It's looking like ATRA's canceled, so we won't have that issue, but we all could be underwater.
But we'll
still do your commentaries. Try to get your commentaries in before, so that if you want to grade on that, you can get that grade. I know if you're not underwater, I don't know, guys, let's just, global warming.
No more water.
No more water. Oh man. Okay. Have a good night, everybody. And I will keep in touch with you over the next few days about class next week. And stay safe. Be prepared. What's the Boy Scout motto? Be prepared. Is it 3 or 2 fingers? It's 3 fingers.
Yeah, we're already out of water here. So yeah. Right. People panic. They get psycho.
Where are you?
I live close to, I'm in between Pensacola and Mobile, Alabama. I'm kind of 45 minutes from both directions and 45 minutes from Gulf Shores.
Yeah.
So
wherever it's looking like all of Florida is just going to be a hot mess. So,
so.
All right.
Fun times. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. And fires out in the West, Tracy.
Yeah. No more fires. No more. That's scary.
Half our country is underwater and the half of the country is burning. So I know.
In the middle.
All right. Bye, guys.